Hi friends, hello. Happy Wednesday. So it's a bit of a late start for me, but that's okay. I'm just checking that I'm off mute because I streamed on Monday and I talked for the first 10 minutes and apparently I was on mute, so that was fun. But I think I'm good. If you can't hear me or anything like that, let me know. Good morning, good afternoon, happy time zone, good evening, wherever you are. I hope that your week is going by okay and that the weather is okay where you are. We have a little bit of rain and it's kind of gloomy today, so the lighting is not the best. Not a lot of sun, which it's winter, so it is what it is. But yeah, we'll get through it. Just doing fun, artsy things, creative things. Let's play with stationery today. Let's relax and have some fun. So if you want to do some stationery, fun, creative things with me, feel free to do that. Grab your stationery stuff and we can hang out and do things together. Or if you're working or you have to lurk, that's okay. Totally fine. Jump into chat if you can or if you want to. Ask questions or, let me know what you're up to, how your week is going. And if you're going to the Philly Pen Show, I hope you have so much fun. So much FOMO. I wish I was going to all the pen shows, but we're not. So, let me know what you're up to. And super chill today. I think sometimes we just need these days, where we just take out our stationery and have fun, find some joy, and play with our stash, play with our stuff and play with our stash. And yeah, January is just one of those days, I think, you're coming off of holidays and time off if you get that. And my kids are back in school, so we're kind of into a routine, but it takes a little bit of adjustment, right? Like we sort of started our routine a little bit with a little bit of, tears and things like that. So, but that's okay. We'll get there. And for me, it's good because I can spend a little bit of time streaming and doing some fun stationery stuff. So on Monday, I streamed and I did a little bit of planning and journaling. So I thought that on Mondays, I'm going to try and do a stationery, like a general stationery stream. Whereas on Wednesdays, I tend to do a lot more fountain pen ink, that kind of stuff. More to focus on that. But on Mondays, I thought I could do more, setting up my planner, which my everyday carry is a traveler's notebook passport size. And in this one, I have inserts that I can carry around with me, so it's portable, and it sort of keeps me organized throughout the day. And so I set that up, and it's kind of a hybrid bullet journal style. So I set that up on Monday for the week and loving it so far. It's going really well. And then the other thing I did was I did some memory keeping in my Hemlock and Oak weekly and daily undated planner. And basically what I do is I just look back at the previous week and I do some stickering and fun accessory washi tape type spreads and just write down highlights of each day that I want to remember and that I want to document. It's very simple. It's not too complicated or too intense. And then the other thing I did was a daily journal entry, and basically I just did a floral drawing based on a reference photo, and did a little bit of journaling. So it was just creative fun, and I'm trying to do this every day, especially on weekdays when I know I can kind of set aside a little bit of time in the morning to do it. And it's been going okay so far. I didn't do it over the weekend, which I kind of expected that because with kids, it's like super busy, really hard to kind of set aside time that I need to sort of sit and focus on something. And so I'm trying to do this more on a weekday basis. And I use the Monday stream as sort of a time to do it and also show my process so that if you want to do something like this in your journal, you know, follow along or join me on Mondays or watch the replay or VOD and do it too. Use your stationery in your journals and have some fun, like no pressure, no expectations of how it's going to end up. So that was my Monday stream. So the VOD and the replay for that stream is up if you're interested in more, you know, general kind of journaling and planning, which it's kind of what I've been doing for a much longer time than how long I've been into fountain pens. I started with journaling and planning and using stickers and accessories, so fountain pen adjacent type stuff, and gel pens, and then I got into fountain pens and pretty much kind of rolled in all the fountain pen ink stuff into my creative process. So it sort of encompasses all kinds of different stationery. So yeah, definitely join on a Monday if you can. If you can't, I totally get it. It's a Monday. It's the start of the week. Super busy. But I thought it's a good sort of time to sit down, reset, reflect on the past week, and then set yourself up for the current week. And I like doing that. It's sort of a ritual. Monday mornings are kind of the time where, you know, the kids go to school, so I can have that time to think about my intentions for the week in terms of projects that I'm working on, or, you know, things that I want to stream about or share on social, and work on content and stuff like that. So that's my Monday. And then today, which is Wednesday, I wanted to do more fountain pen related things. So I got the Musubi Takegami Natural notebook. I won it in a Pen Addict giveaway. So I thought that was really, really cool because this paper is super interesting. And I wanted to test it out. So obviously I'm going to throw ink in here and we're going to see how it performs. And the cool thing is I have another Musubi notebook, which I got at the SF Pen Show in 2023. And this one, the paper in here is called Rasa. And it is similar-ish to Cosmo Air Light. So if you are familiar with that kind of paper, it's similar to that a little bit. We'll take a closer look at each of the different paper types and what they're kind of, like what they're formulated or what they're kind of known for, what they're good for, what they can sort of take. So we'll take a closer look at both of them, but I thought it'd be kind of interesting to do a little bit of ink painting in both notebooks. I also have pencils because apparently I did a little bit of reading up on the Takegami Natural paper, and apparently it's good for graphite, so drawing, sketching, doodling should be fun in here as well. So I have some pencils. We'll do a little bit of drawing as well. And then I thought it'd be kind of fun to compare two different Musubi notebooks. Yeah, just see how they perform. Congrats on winning. Oh, thanks, Story Tribe. Yeah, it was really cool. And apparently I was on a notebook winning streak because I also won original TRP notebook in Brad's stream giveaway. So that's on its way. I think today, tomorrow, sometime. It takes a little while to get to Canada for some reason, but I'll get that. And yeah, OG TRP is like the gold. So can't wait for that. But yeah, I thought it was really cool that we get to try something new. If you've heard of Takegami Natural paper, or if you've tried this Musubi notebook or this paper from Musubi, let me know. Let me know your thoughts too. But I assume that not a lot of people have tried it because unless you order directly from Musubi or you got it at a pen show or something like that, I'm not sure. I haven't heard of it before. So it would be kind of fun to try it out ourselves and see how it sort of performs. But I think what we'll do is we'll first look at the paper types. So this notebook, like I said, I got in 2023 at the SF Pen Show. And I got it because I was intrigued by the Rasa paper and that it was similar to Cosmo Air Light. And I thought, okay, let's give it a try. So this notebook I was using in 2023 to 2025. So last year included, I was using it for currently inked spreads. So basically just every month going in here. If you joined my streams last year, you would have been part of this. Once a month, we went into this notebook and just documented the fountain pens that I had inked up. And I really like this paper because it has this sort of shiny texture to it. And so if you used, especially like black ink, if you stamped on it or if you used black ink, it kind of has a little bit of like a shiny look to it after, which I quite enjoyed. I wouldn't use this kind of notebook for like everyday journaling or something like that, because I prefer this type of paper for drawing, painting, or just occasional writing. It's just a little too shiny for me, texture wise, and feel wise, the way it sort of feels. But it's really nice as sort of like a currently inked or something where it's like, you know, you're using it for a specific purpose. So that's kind of what I enjoyed about this notebook. Looking forward to seeing you use this one. I'm looking forward to it too. I'm very curious. So I'm actually looking forward to trying it out and sharing that experience. So let's take a look at both of these notebooks. I'll share the paper, or what it says about the paper on the Musubi website. So this one is the Rasa paper. Let me just condense it a little bit. Okay, so this is Rasa paper, and so if we take a look at the site, it's customized in-house, so yeah, formulated for Musubi. Maximum practicality. I don't know the word. A new way of thinking about paper for fountain pens. Okay. So I'm just gonna scroll down to where it talks about the paper. Rasa at work. So the issue of resistance to hand oils begins with the composition of the surface coating. So we start with a variant microcoat paper that has more inherent resistance to oils than Cosmo Air Light. So that's why it reminds me of Cosmo Air Light, because I think it is pretty similar to it. It's not exactly like Cosmo Air Light, but it reminded me of that. So it is pretty similar. The resulting paper is slightly drier in hand feel, significantly more absorptive of applied media. It's not immune to oils, more resilient to the... Anyways, a bunch of other things. Improvements to some elements of the paper means trade-offs in others. So let's see. It reduces color performance. So I think I found that as well. Is it depends on what inks you use in the Rasa paper notebook or on Rasa paper. Because I did find that there were some inks, different colors, specific colors, I think, that we tried that look a little different on this paper versus on TRP or another paper. So that's interesting. This stems from the drastically increased rate at which the paper absorbs the ink. Okay, so that makes sense. This paper is primarily oriented towards work and study use. So they wanted to make it that it would dry faster and you could use it for, you know, planning or journaling or writing, note-taking, things like that. So that makes sense. Hi, Archaeopen. Yay, caught a second consecutive stream. Soon you'll be streaking. Oh, and hydrate. I should hydrate. Yes, that's all hydrate. So that's, oh, this is very cool. So we're just talking about the Musubi, well, two Musubi notebooks. We're taking a look at Musubi Rasa, and then we're going to take a look at my new Musubi Takegami Natural notebook, which I won in a Brad giveaway, in a waffle giveaway. Okay, so that's interesting. It goes into the different types of tools and how that would feel too. So very cool. If you're curious about the different Musubi notebooks, definitely take a look at their website. And I'm just going to share the link to what I'm looking at. So this is okay, so this is the Rasa paper. Oh no, sorry. This is the Rasa paper. Let's try that again. Okay, so these are the two that we're looking at. This is the Rasa paper. And then the second notebook is Musubi with Takegami Natural paper. So this one is the Musubi Rasa notebook, which we just looked at. I shared the link if you are curious. I have been using it for, for a little bit. So I've used maybe half of it. And I enjoy it. But like I said, it's not one of those notebooks I would use for everyday writing or journaling. Just because of my personal preference in paper. And, and personally, I wouldn't use a Cosmo Airlight notebook every day, but I do like it for painting and drawing and, yeah, maybe with different tools. Maybe that's why. Just different tools on that kind of paper. So the second notebook is the Musubi Rasa Takegami Natural paper. And it's lined, so it's quite interesting. The paper is it's actually more yellow than what you're probably seeing on screen, just because I have natural light coming in as well. But it's actually more yellowish brown, craft, maybe like a dark craft paper. But it does feel very natural, so and thick. Feels like a thick notebook. So let's take a look at this. So Takegami Natural, 100% Japanese bamboo, natural and unbleached. Made entirely from unbleached 100% Japanese bamboo pulp. No mix-ins, no wood pulp, etc. The end result is a medium weight, light brown paper with a warm tone. And so on. Multiple layers of dye can be applied to the paper without any fiber lifting behavior or bleed through to the other side. So that's what interests me. As someone who likes to paint with fountain pen inks on paper, that is aside from watercolor paper, which I also love to do, but I like to test out different papers that I can use more than just like for writing purposes. So if it's able to handle inks, but at, a higher sort of quantity or saturation, then I'm impressed. I'm impressed by that kind of paper. So, so suitable for day-to-day writing, this paper truly shines when used for art, sketch, doodle, draw, and wash, etc. Very cool. I love these examples too of the different ways that they use the paper. All right, and then there's more about it. So I like it. I think it's very intriguing. And let's try it out. Let's have fun with it. So I picked out some inks that I wanted to try out. So we're going to do it on in both notebooks. Just because because I wanted to compare two Musubi notebooks. Not that they're meant to be compared, like not that they're comparable to each other. They're very different from each other. But I just wanted to kind of have fun in both notebooks. So we're going to try them both. So I picked out a few inks that I wanted to try. I actually have one standard, two shimmers. So two standard and a shimmer. And then I have this interesting white ink. So tell me if you've tried this before. It's Octopus Fluids Write and Draw called White Polar Bear. And it is a white pigment ink. So beware about putting it in a fountain pen. But I've tried it once or twice with a dip pen, and I just find it very interesting. I haven't nailed down the perfect way of using it, like in my sort of routine or the way I use inks. Stationery stuff is Monday. We're supposed to be painting on Wednesday. Zodiac pens, hold your horses. We are going to be painting in these notebooks. Yeah, so I wanted to try this out because I feel like this natural paper, because it's craft brown, I think that might be interesting to try white ink on. So we're gonna give that a go. Hi, Matcha. Thanks for streaming, of course. Yeah, feel free to lurk, and thanks for joining this stream too. So today, if you're joining in late like Bart, what we're gonna do is we're gonna do some ink painting in two Musubi notebooks. This one that I've had for a little while. It's with Rasa paper, specially formulated in Musubi notebooks. And then the second one is a new notebook I won in Brad's stream. It is also a Musubi notebook, but it's made with Takegami Natural paper. And it is lined, but it's similar to the color of like craft paper, but it feels really, really nice. It's natural, it's unbleached, uncoated. And so I thought it'd be kind of interesting to paint and draw with it. And then I shared the two links to each type of paper. If you're curious or you want to find out more, feel free to check that out. And so yeah, let's start. We're gonna start in the Rasa paper notebook. I'm just gonna pick a page in the back because that way we can just test it out. So the inks I'm going to use, let me set up a little bit. All right. Okay, so the inks I'm going to use, there's this one, which is one of my favorite teals. Hi, Indy, how's it going? This sounds like fun. We are going to have fun. So this is one of my favorite teals. And Bart's favorite teal too, probably. It's called Tears of Alice by Bungubox. And it is such a nice ink to ink up a pen with, but also to paint with, because it's just such a nice, bright teal. So we're going to use a little bit of that. New notebooks are always fun, aren't they? Especially when there's like no pressure to use them in an aesthetic way. Like there is no, I'm not going to, use these notebooks in a way that's like they have to look consistently the same on every page. I'm just gonna have fun in them, so there is no pressure. So the second ink is actually from Bart, and It's turning out to be a really nice ink to paint with. And I know Bart mentioned that he doesn't like to, or it's too light to ink up a fountain pen with. But it's Colorverse Cat's Eye Nebula. And Bart, it's actually really fun to do ink paintings with it. That's the ink that you can't find. One of these days, you'll be able to find it. And the next time I see you, I'll bring you a sample, just so you have some on hand. Even though I think you want a full bottle of this ink. It's so good. So the third ink I'm using is Wearingeul Juliet. And I love this color because it's like a peach pink. And it's really warm and cozy and nice. So it's great for painting with as well. And it's a shimmer ink too, so that'll be fun. And then the fourth ink I'm using is Oblation Olive. Oblation Olive. And it's an olive green color. And I'm a big fan of olive greens in general. I like to ink up pens with an olive green ink. But for painting too, it's really nice because it goes with a lot of different color palettes, and it looks very natural, leafy, and it doesn't look too bright or too light. So I do like olive greens for sure. And I mentioned I'm going to try this white pigment ink called White Polar Bear. I'm actually going to try it out after I do the painting, and mostly on the Takegami Natural paper. Just because I think the white might stand out more on that. I don't know. That's what we're going to test out anyways. I don't know if it will work or not, but we'll have some fun. We'll try it out. Okay, so I'm going to pick out some paint brushes. Let's see. Okay. This one will be for the green. And we'll start with, I think, the lighter corally pink color. So this is Juliet Wearingeul. So I'm going to swatch it at the bottom. Then I'm just going to add some to the paper. And I have found that this paper handles inks really well. I use it mostly for swatching or writing my currently inked fountain pens. But it does handle inks really well. Similar to Cosmo Air Light too. I find this type of paper with a smooth texture, shiny texture, it does really well with showing off inks and stuff. And it does dry pretty fast, considering how much ink you put on there, of course. But it doesn't take too long to dry. It doesn't just sit on there and take forever. Okay, so then we have a little bit of teal, which I think I'm just gonna add. It's kind of like an accent color instead of taking up too much space. And I'll do a little bit of blending as well. My two favorite inks right now are Winter Night and the Empire Pen Show ink. Which one was that? I don't think I saw that one. Is it a blue? I'm going to swatch this here too. It's dark blue with lots of shimmer. Okay, yeah. I think I saw it in one or two sort of posts shared by someone. Yeah, I love blues. I think blues and teals, greens, those are kind of my favorite or go-to inks. I feel just comfortable around blue ink. And teals because they're a type of blue, and then greens because they're pretty close. So I tend to pick blues as the inks that I like to acquire. Not necessarily because I need any more. I don't really need a lot of blues. But if it's a blue and it's nice, you can get me with that. Central Park Twilight, I think. Let me look it up. Here it is. There we go. Oh, it's nice. No wonder. Central Park Twilight. Robert Oster. You're right, Bart. Golden Hour Glow. Very cool. Yeah. Cerulean blue with teal shimmer. That's really pretty. Because then it's the shimmer is not like overpowering in any way. I like that. Yep. That's a good one. I know people are like, not another blue for a showing. But I don't know. I like blues, so I'm not going to complain. I'm all for it. Let's watch this too. Okay, then we have the green, olive green. So let's put that over here. Great ink. My favorite green is Borealis from... Oh, yeah, forest green with copper shimmer. I think did you give me a sample of that, Bart? Maybe. Forest green, yeah, with copper shimmer. That's really nice. I've noticed that there are a lot of people. People were named Lancelot. So this is what it looks like. It's drying. Are you here to tell jokes? Movie night butter. Okay, so this is the painting. I actually haven't painted in this notebook before, so that's why it's interesting that it's definitely bleeding through, but that's okay. It's not a big deal. So obviously, you know, if you write in this notebook, it's fine. I don't think I've seen ghosting either. Well, maybe a little bit, depending on how wide the pen is or how broad the pen is. Yeah, in some cases, I sort of saw a little bit of ghosting. Yeah, well, depends on the kind of nib you're using, I guess. But that's why it's good to test and try out paper in the back of a notebook if you're using a notebook, just because there's a little bit of dot that has transferred from the bleed through onto the next sheet, so it's totally fine. I saw ghosting in SF when you're We're talking about paper here. We're not talking about actual ghosting people, which I also do sometimes. And Bart would know. I just leave without saying goodbye. It is what it is. You have to accept it. It is cool though, because this paper, you can see right away the shimmer, which sometimes, depending on what paper you're painting on or using these inks on, the shimmer might not show right away just because it needs a little bit of time to dry, and maybe your paper is really saturated with inks. But this type of paper, similar to Cosmo Air Light too, I find that it does really well in reflecting back shimmer and secondary properties. But I can see where, you know, they're kind of saying that it absorbs inks, so it might not seem as vibrant as the ink is intended to be. But I guess it depends on the kind of ink that you use too. So, okay, so that is Musubi Rasa paper. And now we're going to try the same inks on or in this Musubi notebook, which is Takegami Natural paper. So even though it's lined, we're just going to disregard. We're going to disregard that it's lined, and we're just going to paint on top, which is fine. Because one of the applications potentially for this kind of notebook, if you wanted to use it artistically and creatively, is that you could do sort of paintings and drawings and sketches, and then write on top of it with pigment ink, or, you know, write around a drawing and stuff like that. So painting and drawing on lined paper is totally fine. And it could be kind of cool to use lined paper as your journal, but then also have drawings and paintings in it. So it is all good. So we're going to use the same inks and do swatches. I expect it to look different just because of the color of the paper. So, you know, inks that look vibrant on white, like stark white paper, they might look a little bit more muted on this paper just because it's, you know, the color of the paper itself. So we'll see. But I am curious to see how it handles shimmer inks, and how long it takes to dry, and also bleed through factor, and all those things. So we'll take a look. So now we have the teal, which looks very bright on this paper. Very green. Let's add a little bit more of this pink coral. All right, now we'll move on to a second shimmer ink. Swatch it there. Yeah, it does look light on here. Such an interesting ink though. Okay, and then finally, our nice olive green. Okay. The teal definitely stands out. And you can see the shimmer as it's drying. So that's nice. Like I said, I have natural light coming in, so it's actually making the paper look lighter than it is in real life. So it actually looks more like craft paper. So that's interesting. There's no bleed through. You can see a little bit of the water imprint. So it definitely takes the water. So that's cool. So let's see. Oops. Let's see what it looks like after it dries. But this is just a quick sort of look at both of the paintings. And actually, now that I do look at the sort of side-by-side comparison, I do see where some of the ink on the Rasa paper does look muted, in that it's not really reflecting, doesn't look bright as it might on sort of regular paper, I guess. Especially some of that pink and a little bit of, like, where it's very light ink, it looks very, very light. So it does absorb that part of where your ink isn't pooling. So that's interesting and very cool. Definitely more bleed through happening too as it's drying, which is okay. Still feels fine, like when you're painting. It's not like we're getting a bunch of feathering and ink all over the place. Like, it does move around, and that's okay. So we have some wet ink pool, which will dry, but it does move sort of as it dries. But when, you know, you're putting down the ink, it's not like it's crazy feathering or anything like that. It's just depending on how much ink and how much saturation you're sort of putting that paper through, it'll show on the other side, but that's okay. So this is almost dry. The green is taking a little bit of time, and also where we put a lot of ink down, so we'll give it a little bit more time, but in the meantime we'll note down the inks. Let's see. I'm going to use a fine liner. And 04. So it's a mono drawing pen that I'm using. And I'm going to write down the inks. And then actually I wanted to try the white ink on the Takegami Natural. So let's do that after I do this. So this is Wearingeul. Juliet. And then we have Bungubox. Tears of Alice. Colorverse. Cat's Eye Nebula. And we're gonna leave the screen. Actually, I'm not gonna leave it. There we go. And this is Oblation. I think it's called Oblation Olive. Let me just double check. Yeah, Oblation Olive. Okay, so those are the inks. Now I'm gonna let this dry even more. And while that's drying, let's try this white ink. Where's my, oh. So I had it in this ink vial. And if you're not familiar with my numbered ink vials, they're just ink vials that I have sitting at my desk, and I usually add ink in a vial when I get a new bottle, or I want to play around with some of the inks that I have in my drawer, but I don't want to keep taking out ink bottles. So what I do is I add a little bit to an ink vial and have it sitting on my desk. And that's kind of a visual reminder for me to use my inks and to play around with them. So, right. Because it's pigment ink, I just want to make sure it's well stirred. So this one is Octopus Fluids. I want to say Olive Octopus. Octopus Fluids White Polar Bear. Write and Draw ink. And it's a white pigment ink. So it might not show well on this paper. I was curious because I've been trying to find a way to use this ink without inking up a fountain pen, because that just makes me nervous. And also I'm not going to use it often enough to warrant inking up a pen and having to use it constantly just to keep the ink moving. And so I don't know, I'm just kind of adding ink to the paper. I guess we're gonna have white leaves. But it might actually be good as sort of like highlights or some accents on flowers or other things. Like if you're drawing something or painting something else, it might be kind of fun to add accent or a highlight. So we'll see. We'll see how this dries. I feel like it's just gonna dry a muted version of that, so, which is fine. But I have yet to sort of, because I don't write on black paper either. I have black paper, but I just feel like it doesn't make sense as like a daily use. So we're gonna let that dry. But that does look kind of fun. So actually, while they both dry, on this side of the paper, I'm going to test out pencils, because this paper is meant to be used with graphite. So like it's great for drawing, sketching, drawing apparently. So I'd love to see how it sort of handles pencils and what it looks like, if it's like fun to draw on it and stuff like that. So we're just gonna try it out. Remove some things out of the way. Okay, so I have a few pencils to test. These are a bunch of mono or Tombow mono drawing pencils in different types. So you can go from 2H all the way up to 6B. So hard and soft pencils. So we're just gonna try all of them. I'm just gonna order them from hard to soft. You get thicker lines or thinner, sort of finer lines. So we're just gonna do a little bit of drawing. Let's see. This is 2H. So this is a hard pencil. It definitely feels like it. This actually feels really nice. Like, you know, if you were drawing on sort of a smooth, like smooth wood, smooth craft paper type thing. There's like zero texture. It's very good. So let's do I love that the pencils aren't catching on the paper, but it does give some feedback, so that's really nice. So now we have B. And the softer you go, the more line variation you can get just by pressing down when you're sketching too. It's very nice. So we have 2B. Feels really great for line work. Like if you are into urban sketching or, you know, something where you're sort of coloring and, you know, taking up a little bit more surface space. Feels good. And it doesn't feel like slick, like you would expect Cosmo Air Light or something like that to be. So I think the Rasa paper would be a little bit more, like it would feel smoother, just that like your pencil is kind of gliding on it, but it's not always the best for personally for drawing or sketching, because I kind of want, you know, the pencil to put down sort of those sketchy lines. This is really soft. This is 6B, so you get that really broad line. So that's pencil. Great for pencils. I really enjoyed that. If you use pencils, let me know what your ideal firmness of pencil is, because I feel like people who use pencils or, you know, draw with pencils and things like that, they have like an ideal sort of line that they like, and it depends what kind of pencil you're using too. So yeah, I think for me, I really like the harder tip. Like a 2H is really nice, especially when I'm sort of drawing something out that I'm going to outline over. So it's really nice and light, you know. But when I'm sketching or I want to sort of do a pencil drawing, and that's what it's going to end up looking like, I tend to go with a softer sort of pencil. So the 4B is kind of a nice area. 6B, I don't think I use that too often, just because the lines are very broad. It's very, very soft, and so I tend to not be able to add more detail. So I think the 4B is pretty good. I think that was a 2B, wasn't it? I didn't write that in. Okay. Kind of nice to experiment with different firmness, with a different firmness of pencils too. So that's pretty much dry, just except for the white that I added on top. But yeah, you can see that the ink that's already underneath the white that I added on top is sort of absorbing the white. So I don't think we're going to see too much of it when it's dry. But we'll take a look at the swatch when we're done. It is kind of nice to add it as a highlight though, if you are painting with a white ink. Oh, you're so welcome, Matcha. I'm so glad you enjoy it. I like that people stick around to watch because I'm just having fun. I'm just doing whatever, so I'm glad that it's interesting at the very least. So this is dry, so Now we get to the second part of playing with inks, and that's drawing the details on top and doing some fun line work. And for that, I use Kakamori pigment ink. So it's a black pigment ink. Again, I don't use this in a fountain pen. Not that you can't. It's just that I don't think I would use it regularly enough to warrant having it in a fountain pen, and also risking that it sits there for too long. So, but the way I do love using it is with a dip pen, just to do some line work and drawing. Hi, Spicy. How's it going? It's giving you crappy ads. I'm sorry. They should be giving you good ads on this stream. But thank you for watching them and getting through them somehow. Hopefully it doesn't take too long. But as an artist, how do you know what color palette to use? I do not. I do not. I'm one of those artists that just trial and error. I just go with it. There is not a lot of rhyme or reason, but I think though, I will say that the more I play around with inks and color, I do just naturally tend to balance out different colors because I've seen the combinations before. So in my mind, I'm kind of like, oh, if I have a teal, I like to gravitate towards like a pink, because in my mind they sort of balance each other. And then if I'm doing lighter colors, then I tend to use sort of the olive green for leaves or light green. Yeah, I think because I use them so often, I just naturally kind of know how to offset colors. But I'm by no means an expert on color palettes, nor do I spend a lot of time thinking about color palettes. Like even when I'm inking up my fountain pens, I just go with like different colors that I feel set the mood for that season or that month. And a lot of times it's very much, you know, fall and winter, I'm kind of into the earthy, moody, dark tones. And then come spring and summer, I'm into bright, fun, you know, vibrant colors. So that's kind of my reflection in what I use to paint with as well. So a lot of times when I paint with inks, if I start with probably one or two colors that I just like, and I go through all of my inks and I just find one or two, and then I sort of balance them out a little bit. And I try and do standard and shimmer together, just because it's more fun that way. So if I have, you know, a couple of shimmer inks that would probably go well in that palette, then I go for it. You refuse to give the company money? Yeah, I mean, look, I'm on Instagram a lot and I still share on there, and I have thoughts about the platform. Oh no, that's not a great ad. Does your opinion change when doing digital arts? Yeah, we've kind of talked about that before. In terms of digital arts, like if I am going to transfer a painting or something I've done by hand to create like a sticker or something like that, where I have to sort of upload it and make sure that digitally it works, you can see the colors at least. In those cases, I tend to go with darker, vibrant colors. And again, you know, sort of balancing the different shades so that they work together. But I will say, a lot of times it's sort of trial and error. I'll try, like sometimes I will try some colors and I'm like, ooh, this palette does not work well together. And it's because I don't like to sit down and sort of think about the theory. Like I don't like to think about color theory and figure out what should work well together. I just kind of go with my gut, my instinct. I'm just like, I like these colors, I'm just gonna do it. Yeah. Oh, I have a printer scanner. It's okay. It's not terrible. It's just an HP something, all-in-one type thing. So I can print, scan, and copy. And yeah, as long as you can do 300 DPI, that's kind of the base for being able to pull the colors off of paper onto digital and print it, right? To be able to print it as a sticker or something else. Yeah. I don't draw digitally, so a lot of times when I want to create digital art, it's created on paper, and then I scan it in, and then I'll do it in Procreate or something, and I'll take my pencil or Apple Pencil and kind of draw on top of it or add color to it, but it's color matched usually to whatever color is sort of pulled in to the drawing. Or I do hand lettering. I do digital hand lettering. But I'm very much an analog pen to paper type of person. So for me to feel like I'm being creative or artsy, I like to do it by hand, on paper. I know digitally you can do it by hand, but I like doing it on paper. It's just a personal preference, I think. Can I do it digitally? Of course. And have I played with Procreate? Of course. But, and I've tried different brushes and different sort of tools on digital as well. I just don't get the same sort of joy that I get when I create something by hand. I don't know. Maybe because digitally I can sort of undo things. And yes, that's less pressure, and that sort of has its own, it feels, more comfortable maybe. But I think the being able to undo things or move things around or change the color if I needed to, right? Like if I was doing this digitally and I thought, oh, well, maybe the pink doesn't look as vibrant as I thought it would be. Let's change it up. Let's change it to a different color. I don't know. I just find like it's kind of surprising and unexpected sometimes when I'm doing it by hand, and I know that this is what it's going to look like. Like this is what I'm kind of stuck with in a good way. The other thing is, as a millennial, I feel like technology is... I have a love-hate relationship with technology. I like using digital tools. I like learning digital tools as well. But that being said, I feel like sometimes it just takes too long to get the desired effect that I'm looking for. And it's because, there are different tools and brushes and different effects that I need to sort of apply. And it comes with a learning curve. And this has zero learning curve. This is like, it's the way I'm angling my pen. It's the ink that I'm using. It's so simple. And if I don't like it, it's fine. I will move on, knowing that I can't do anything about it. Like this, it is what it is. But if I sort of played around digitally and did it, via Procreate or something like that, I would just be stuck. I would just keep doing it, keep tinkering, and then figure out like, what are some other ways I can make this look better? Next thing you know, I'm just like going down the rabbit hole of different methods and things. So I love by hand. That's not going to change it. Yeah. It depends on your mood and tolerance. Hey, you do you, right? Like if, and there are tons of people who are like digital only for whatever reason. Like maybe it's space. Like, yeah, you might not have the space to take out all your tools and do it by hand. You might not have the time either. Honestly, the point of doing art is just doing, right? It doesn't matter if you're doing it digitally or by hand, or what sort of draws you in is the way that you should be doing it, for sure. There's no better way. I don't think doing it by hand is the better way of doing art. I just think doing art in general is the best way of doing art. Art should exist for art's sake. Like, however you do it, it's you doing it, right? It's you doing it by hand, digitally or through, analog mediums, whatever, abstract, detailed, whatever way you want to do it, honestly. And sometimes it's easier, sometimes doing things by hand on paper might be the harder way of doing stuff, right? Because then you run into issues where it's like, what paper are you using, right? What ink are you using? Is it dry? Is it wet? Whatever. All those secondary factors that come into play. Whereas digitally, you can have different, if you're using Procreate or some other platform where you can create art, you can have different digital brushes. You can play around with them to see what works for the art that you have in mind and what you want the end result to be. And that it might be easier that way, less time. You sort of sit down, you do the thing, and then get joy out of doing the thing. But Call me weird, digital art for me is a game changer. That's awesome. I have no idea if it's something for being on the spectrum. Yeah. Oh, yeah. I can't stand the pencil scratch sounds. For sure. Yeah, for sure. I totally get that, Spicy, and thanks for sharing that. Because textures, as creative people, sometimes we are very sensitive to textures, to ASMR sounds, the feel of things. Sometimes it's stimulating, overstimulating, whatever. So I totally get that. Like, if you're feeling, it's like when you're writing with a fountain pen and it's scratchy, like, could it be the feedback from the paper, or could it be a scratchy nib, or is it just the type of pen you're using, right? But if you're not enjoying the process, then definitely it's time to find something that you enjoy instead. We're working on printing drawings directly onto 3D prints. So you've been learning Procreate, Jacqueline. That's awesome. It helps ease some of my anxiety. Yeah, the redo function for sure. Yeah, I definitely, although I like doing things by hand, like hand lettering and things like that too, a lot of times when you're under the pressure of, you do want it to look a certain way, whether you're designing a sticker or designing products. Sometimes it's like you do actually want it to look presentable and something that, you have the end product or the end look in mind. And in those cases, for sure, I turn to Procreate for that as well. Digital hand lettering is actually quite fun. So maybe, Spicy, that sort of speaks to the digital art versus sort of analog art, I guess, or paper art. But digital lettering is actually really quite fun. And it's kind of fun to play around with the design element of it. So, if you're writing or drawing or something, you can resize, you can make it, smaller, bigger. You can sort of change the angle and where it's sort of sitting on your paper. Whereas you can't do that when you're doing it directly on paper, right? And that's the digital or the design aspect of it, I think, is when you're doing digitally, you can redesign. You can sort of redesign the way that it's going to look in the end. What do you call this in English? What are these? Stabilo. Oh yeah, these like fine liners, colored fine liners, drawing pens. Yeah. These ones. Like art pens. The moment you hear the sound, yeah. It's kind of, sound is cringe, right? It's like fingernails on a chalkboard. Even the thought of it makes me cringe, and like I have a physical reaction to that. So yeah, definitely like sounds, whether it's perceived or actual. That's the reason I love the Pilot nib. Yeah. Felt tip pen? Yeah. I think you're right, Inky. That's what they are. So that's the pigment, that's the Kakimori pigment ink on top. Now we're having even more bleed through. And I don't think the pigment ink would help that. And that's drying too. So that's just kind of sitting on top. And it's gonna take a little while to dry. Yeah. Yeah, felt a pen. I hope what I shared was okay. Of course it's okay, Spicy. I love the discussion. I love the discussion. And we're just talking about your preference of how you create art. And I feel like however you feel you get joy out of creating art is the way that you should do it. Whether it's with digital tools or with, analog tools. I personally, I don't think it matters. I think whatever you feel comfortable and whatever you get joy out of is honestly the way you should be doing it. It's not to say that's objectively the way everyone should be doing it. And that's what I'm trying to convey, is that while I personally prefer doing things on paper and by hand, I also use digital tools to, to tinker with my art, especially if I'm going to print it or use it in some way. I want it to be, what I have in mind. I just find that doing it on paper for me is naturally just the way that I can sort of express my art, if that makes sense. Also, doing whatever sort of testing when it comes to spectrum won't change my life. Yeah. That being said, Spicy, I have a daughter who's on the spectrum and tested and diagnosed. And I feel like it's helpful in just the way to figure out what works for you, and how to sort of manage the way that you're sort of stimulated by sound, by texture, and it's totally fine, right? And like I said, we're all sort of, some of us can't stand the sound of certain things, or the texture of certain things, the feel of certain things, and that's okay, it's totally subjective in the way that, sometimes you don't like the sound of certain pencils or pens on paper. It's totally fine. I had those cringe feelings when you're using the pencils on that paper. Tons of feedback was coming through the speakers. I'm sorry, Bart. You're like, oh, stop it. And that's funny, or it's interesting. It's not funny, it's interesting, because that sound, that feedback of graphite on paper or sailor pens, the feedback of sailor pens on paper, I actually quite enjoy. I really like that sound, that feel, when it's catching on paper, not catching on paper, when it's using the paper to give you feedback. When it's catching on paper, it sounds scratchy, and I don't like that. I don't want it to catch on paper. But the sound of, the, I guess, whether it's ink or graphite on paper is really nice. So I totally get it. I'm planning what pens to take to the Meister at Philly. Yeah. Except for the squeak the nib makes on paper. Yeah, and that's paper dependent too. So make sure you're figuring out what paper you're going to use those nibs on, because some paper can make squeaky sounds. No matter how expensive the headphones, I hear. Yeah. I only write using FP. Is it objectively the best way? Very debatable and personal preference. For sure. I think using fountain pens is subjective in the way that it depends on which fountain pen you're using. And again, what paper you're using, that definitely makes a difference, I think. And yeah, if you like sound, if you're sort of sensitive to sound, to texture, and you have these cringe moments, right, of like certain things. I don't mean this as a general fact. Yeah. Oh, for sure. Yeah. It's not something I feel the need to go through all the hassle. Yeah. For sure. For sure. If you feel like you need the help or you need to, you need the support, definitely get it. Definitely get it. But also, if you know what you like or don't like, there are options, right? There's always options. Like, you can try fountain pens. It's not for everyone, right? Cleaning and inking up aside, it's those extra steps, right? Like people who don't like ink on their fingers. I feel like a lot of times that's an adjustment. So if you can't get past that, then you have to look into using only cartridges or inking it up in a way that, you're not going to get ink on your fingers, which I feel is kind of impossible if you're using bottled ink, but, or having someone else do it for you or something like that. But yeah, again, there's options for if you know that you can't get past a certain obstacle or something when you're using these types of tools, right? And if you are definitely not into paper or putting pen to paper, then digital tools are definitely something to explore. And I know people who enjoy digital planning, right? Like, aside from using them for functional and if you have to for work and stuff, some people like the creativity of planning digitally and using like digital stickers or, hand lettering using digital tools. And yeah, that's like, if you have found that you just don't want to do it on paper for various reasons, there's other options that you might actually enjoy. This white is taking forever to dry, by the way. I know I added it last, but it's still wet. It's just sitting on the paper. So let's see how the black pigment, because I know it's white pigment, so that is definitely a factor. But the little bits that we added is okay, kind of. But I think I'm just going to blot some of it. Where's my blotter paper? Let's use this very cute one. And I'm just going to blot it. All right. Yeah. It's like paint. But that's okay. We'll see how it handles the black pigment ink. And I might get ink on my hands, which I don't mind. Definitely feels a little scratchier, this paper, when I'm using the Kakimori nib. And I think Bart might hear this. It's definitely a little scratchier. Let's see if I angle it. And the ink goes down on the paper, which is fine. But yeah, it's not, even though the paper is smooth, I definitely feel it catching on the nib. You can see those lines are a little bit finer. Yeah, you can hear it. Wow, that teal looks really green. Vibrant. I found felt tip pen and gel pen to be great. I know, I love both. Gel pens and felt tip pens. It translates to rollerball. Oh, interesting. Do you use rollerballs, Spicy? Like with fountain pen ink? Or anyone else? Do you like rollerballs? And if you do use them, do you have a preference in ink that you use with them? So scratchy. Yeah, the white ink sort of sits on top of it like paint. So that's very interesting. What's the difference between ballpoint and rollerball? Rollerball uses, or you can use it with fountain pen ink. And I think it's just the smoothness of how it writes, so therefore you can refill it. But I personally don't use roller balls. Here we go. Rollerball versus ballpoint. Rollerball pens use fluid water-based ink for a smooth, low-pressure writing experience, but they dry slower and need a cap. Ballpoint pens use thick oil-based ink. They require more pressure. So that's a difference I have found when I tried rollerballs, is that they use less pressure for writing. Similar, I guess, to a fountain pen, where you don't need to press, or you shouldn't press anyways, press hard on the tip to get your lines. Whereas with ballpoint, you sometimes have to. And ballpoint pens resist smudging, are great for everyday use. Jet pens. Here we go. Difference between ballpoint pen, gel, and roller. What's the difference? Here we go. Oop. Yeah. So here it says too, ballpoint pens use viscous oil-based inks. Or some use hybrid low viscosity ink. Gel ink consists of pigment suspended in water-based gel. It makes it precise and vibrant. I'm more of a gel pen person than a ballpoint person. But also with gel pens, I can use finer tips like 0.25 or 0.38 or something like that. I actually kind of prefer the thinner lines when it's a gel pen. Rollerball uses liquid ink consisting of dyes dissolved in water, similar to what's used with fountain pens. So if you do find your hand straining, the reason why I got into using fountain pens is partly because, or mostly probably because I was straining really. I have a really hard grip with ballpoint pens, and gel pens is kind of the in-between where it's like you can't, and I was using fine, or I use fine tip gel pens, so you can't press too hard, you're gonna break the tip. But with just regular pens, I just found I have such a hard grip, and it's like, it's not good. So with fountain pens, because it forces me to slow down, or to write in sort of, like if you're writing cursive, to write in a smooth sort of line, the writing experience itself has taught me to slow down and to glide, to let the pen sort of do the work without pushing too hard, without putting a lot of pressure. And obviously you don't want to do that with a fountain pen. So that was kind of my way of forcing myself to, like, you know, write without putting a lot of pressure on the pen, because it does, you know, it hurts your hand. And I like writing. I'm just like, naturally, I just love to write. So if I can do long writing sessions with a tool that, you know, won't make my hand hurt, then it's good. And I found that just like taking notes and things like that with ballpoints were just, yeah, a good pen you shouldn't have to press. Yeah. I used to do it when I was a kid. People might know Pelikan actually offers budget FBN rollerball or gel pen that takes Pelikan cartridge. Let's see. Pelikan Twist rollerball pen. All right. That's interesting. Yeah, and Lamy does too, right? Or, I mean, I know Lamy does as well. But have you tried it? If you go from rollerball to gel pen, your handwriting will get better. Interesting. If you're not in school anymore, you don't have to go uber fast unless you are a doctor. I know. It's so true. Yeah, you don't have to take notes as quickly if you're not in school. Or you're taking a course or something and you're trying to keep up. Yeah, that's probably where it came from, to be honest. Just having to... I'm the type of person who likes to write a lot of things down. So even if I don't have to... So, yeah. Using a tool that... But the problem with writing a lot and then doing that for note-taking and stuff is that it becomes a habit. Like, it just becomes muscle memory to, like, grip really hard. And trying to undo that habit has taken years, and I'm still working on it. So I still, you know, if I'm feeling upset about something or stressed when I'm writing, right? Like if I'm journaling about something that, you know, is not super happy or whatever, I can feel that stress sort of come through my hand. And so I'm gripping my pen really tight. And so it's like a constant mindful, you know, having to pay attention to how I'm using the pen that I have. And I do the same thing with fine liners too. Like when I'm drawing, I remind myself to grip in a way that's like lighter. So I'm not just like, you know, having a hard grip, especially when I'm drawing. It's like, you know, making myself grip lighter. Yeah. I don't know where I was going with that, but maybe just the comparison of like a fine liner, especially if the point is not too broad, to using something like a roller ball or something like that. School forced you to use FP because the blue ink used could be erased. Aha. The Pelican rollerball was a great compromise for me. Yeah, I feel like I should try out more rollerballs. Yeah. I want my journal to be pretty, so I slow down on purpose. That's the other thing. Yeah, spicy, that's like aesthetics plays a lot into it too, right? Like you want it to look a certain way, and especially if it's like your journal that you're going to put on your shelf and refer back to or look at a later date. You want it to look good. Yeah, I totally get it. I'm just gonna move this because it's making a sound. It's annoying me. And this is Octopus Fluids. White polar bear. Very cool. Very interesting. Definitely. So let's see. This has now dried. So bleed through and also bleed through, but also bleed through transfer. If you're painting, It shouldn't, I think I have used wide nibs in here. I think it was a monoline mostly that bled through a little bit, but for the most part, I think ghosting was kind of the most that I got from using some of the fountain pens. So for writing in this notebook, it's totally fine. But for painting, definitely not. If you're going to use both sides of the paper, right? Like with TRP, usually if I'm going to paint, I already know that I'm not going to use the other side of that page. So if that's the case, it's totally fine. And then I would probably just put another sheet or a blotter or something like that on the opposite side so that if it does bleed through, at least it doesn't transfer on the paper that you have underneath, because yeah, no one wants that. So that's totally, it's fine. What I do find interesting though is, yeah, some of the colors that look a little bit more muted than they probably should, like they look flatter. Maybe that's the term actually, flat. It looks a little bit flat. And we saw that in the write-up that I showed earlier from Musubi, that because this paper is formulated to absorb inks so that you can actually use it for journaling and then move on, right? Sometimes the ink will look a little bit flatter or not as vibrant as it might on other paper. So that is somewhat to be expected, I guess. So from that, I would probably say that this is not meant to be like a sketchbook or something like that. So all expected, I guess. But the other thing I also found is that when I was drawing on top of the ink that was already on there with pigment ink, the line seemed to be wider than what I expected. So I wasn't angling the dip pen too close to the paper, but the line seemed like I was. So whether that's a little bit of feathering or it's just sort of spreading a little bit to dry, that could be the case. But it was pretty interesting. Like some of these lines here was a little bit unexpected. Whereas, you know, the other lines are fine because I was angling it higher, or, you know, I was using up the ink. But I think initially sort of drawing on here, I did find that the line looks a little bit wider than what I was expecting. So very, very interesting. That's my take on the Rasa paper in the Musubi notebook. And then this one is what I actually wanted to test, the Takegami Natural. So I like that even though it's lined, the lines are a brown color. So I don't know if that's obvious through the screen, but in person, it's a brown color. So I wonder if it is because, you know, you can draw and paint on here or add color or washes, and then you won't see the lines through it very clearly. So it doesn't the lines don't take away from doing art on it, which I appreciate because I don't really want lines going through, you know, a painting or a drawing or something. So that's really cool. The colors are dark. It looks pretty saturated. And also because the paper is sort of this warm brown tone, similar to like craft paper. I guess some of the colors will look a little skewed because of that. The shimmer looks a lot golder on this paper than here. It's like more of a rose gold. Here's very like yellow gold. And whereas on this paper, I found drawing with pigment ink on top of already of fountain pink already on the page, I found the lines to be a little bit thicker, a little bit wider. On here, I actually kind of found the opposite. The nib was catching a little bit on the paper. It felt scratchy. And the lines you can see, or I can see at least, are a little uneven for that reason, because I could sort of feel the nib moving unintentionally. And the lines are actually finer than what I expect. So that's a stainless steel dip nib. So let's try some fountain pens, just because. Although, you know, this paper is intended for more art-based applications. So no bleed through, which is awesome. Amazing. It also does feel thicker, so you do get that sort of water warping a little bit. Crinkly sound and texture. I wasn't a super fan of using the white ink. I'm still on the hunt for how to use and what kind of paper to use this Olive Octopus, or Olive Octopus. I keep saying that because it's Octopus Fluids. This pigment white ink from Octopus Fluids. Still trying to find a way to use it in application that makes sense to me anyways. Because the way it sits on this paper actually now, it's like paint. It's kind of just sitting on top. It feels a little like sticky, like vinyl or something like that, you know? It's sort of texture-y that way. I don't know if you can really see what I mean, but so drawing on top of that is no fun. Because I can see the line is like very thick and it just kind of sits on top there. So probably not the way I probably wouldn't use this ink on this paper, or I don't really know how to use this ink. So I'm still going to be looking for ways to use it. So that's fine. But the other thing you could do is use just a white gel if you are going to add some highlights or something like that. That's actually kind of nice on this paper. So let's do it on another fresh side. Fresh. So okay, now it's not going to work for me. Okay, we'll come back to this. Gel pens. Anyway, you get the gist. I think white ink would work well on this paper, if it works. Similar to if you were using craft paper or something like that. So let's put this back. Let's see. I noticed during winter I love bright colors. Oh, awesome. Summer I prefer less bright colors. You're the opposite of me, Spicy. I prefer the opposite. I feel like I'm moody in the winter and I just kind of want to hibernate. And so I take my colors with me. Take my dark, moody, earthy colors. I don't play games at all, mostly because I have an addictive personality when it comes to gaming, and I will literally just do that. And so I can't, because I don't have that kind of time, especially if I want to dedicate it to, like, what time I do have, I want to use that time towards journaling and like stationery related stuff. And in the past, when I've tried playing games, I just get sucked into playing that game and doing nothing else. And yeah. So that gives you an indication. Okay, so I'm going to grab some fountain pens so that we can do a little bit of writing, okay? Just give me a second. Okay. Move some stuff out of the way too. All right. Let's draw with a few fountain pens. So I'm going to try my Platinum 3776 with an ultra extra fine nib. So my needlepoint. And if you're Bart, then you don't want to listen to this because it's going to sound a little scratchy. Yeah, and it doesn't really feel all that good. Doesn't feel smooth, which is fine. So let's go with a big nib. I'm gonna do the Pilot Custom A23 with a signature nib. Actually, I should write. Okay. So this is yeah, I wouldn't use this fountain pen on this paper. Let's try something wider. Okay, that's a little better, I think. And this is Pilot Custom A23. I don't think a Pilot is bad on anything. I have tanzanite in here. So it looks darker on this paper. Let's see what else. Let's try a reverse architect, a broad reverse architect. It's not too bad. Definitely not enjoying the finer nibs on here, on this paper. Not that I'm surprised. I think it's sort of in line with what I expected, is that sort of the feel of this paper is geared a little bit more towards using it in an artsy, creative way. Sort of broader and different types of tools. So personally, I wouldn't use this notebook for journaling or writing in. I definitely think the application of using it for painting and throwing ink or paint on it and having the pigment ink transfer to your other page, It's totally fine. It's totally my fault. I should have put a blotter paper, but no matter. Or using pencils to draw or sketch, like an urban sketching, or, you know, practicing, like your doodle practice or drawing practice or something like that, I think is a great application for this notebook for sure. Or writing in it with a pencil, or maybe a ballpoint pen or something like that, versus fountain pen, even though it handles fountain pen inks really well. For sure. Is that also... No, it's not the Hara Hara. It's the Sailor and Cult Pens. That's not what that is, right? It's Sailor and Cult Pens. I forgot what the name is, but it's a collaboration pen that Cult Pens released. But I got ink cartridges. The Hara Hara ink cartridges. So that's what I threw in here. And aside from the color, which is really pretty, the other reason why I got this pen too is that it's a broad nib. So it's a 14K broad nib that writes so nicely, especially if you're a broad nib person like me. Yeah. So yeah, I have other pens, but I don't think I'm going to test them on this paper because I wouldn't use them. I definitely think it's sort of like a pencil or a ballpoint pen type of situation, or gel pen, fine liner, that kind of thing. But definitely great for inks, paints, artistic applications for sure. And that's what was on the website. The examples that they had on here. Let's see. So this is Takegami Natural, right? Their examples right away is sort of using fountain pen ink in an artistic sort of, or wider nibs, like a Pilot Parallel or something like that. Sketching. Yeah, drawing, doodling, that kind of line work, I think. Washes would be great. And yeah, if you don't mind the paper sort of warping and crinkling and things like that too, you know, it's great to experiment with it. Throw things at it. Throw color and ink at it. Yeah, I love this. Depending on your choice of inks and washes, multiple layers of dye can be applied to the paper without any fiber lifting behavior or bleed through to the other side. Yeah. Dye based. Careful with pigments because pigment ink might sit there for a little bit. Yeah. Very interesting. I like it. People love sailors so much. Yeah, not surprised. I know. I think I've 4 sailor pens in total. I don't collect them all. And each one of them has a different nib. But I like the size of sailor pens. They're nice and small, so if you have a small hand, I think it's a great fit. The other reason is because a sailor pen on Midori MD paper is like the right amount of feedback. And like I said, I'm the type of person who enjoys a certain type of feedback on paper, whether it's pen to paper or pencil on paper, but I am sensitive to things catching. So Midori paper and Sailor is a great is a great combination for me. Anyways. The colors get people, the combinations. I know. Pilot, right? Pay attention. I feel like Platinum kind of jumped on the boat too late. With, I think last year they had a number of releases, and they're like really nice pens and nice colors, but it's like, I would have gotten more Platinums if, they had sort of jumped on the boat with Sailor and released way more. This is my only Platinum 3776, and I will not be getting any more because of the prices. But it's okay. I'm good with what I have, I think. Same with Sailor too. I'm good with what I have just because I like the color choices that I have, but also the nibs that are in there. So I'm good. And probably with Pilot too, but Pilot gets you with the different nibs and the different nib sizes and stuff, I think. Yeah. Their colors are nice too. But it kind of depends on what you're into, right? Like aesthetics or... Yeah, I love my FA nib. Yeah, I've heard a lot about the different Pilot nibs for sure. FA being one of them. And their nibs are really nice to write with too. So that's like an added... It's like an added nice writing experience. 823 with FA. Yeah. I didn't buy an Ebonite feed. It works good. Yeah, my 823 with the signature nib is like, it's so good. I love it. It's so nice. I'm trying to think my other Pilot. Yeah, I mean, my other Pilot nibs I prefer. I think a broad is fine. Like a stock nib. But aside from that, the nibs that I do kind of play around with are probably just like, standard number 6 Yovo, which I get custom ground if I can. This is the California engraved nib from Penrealm. It has palm trees. It's so pretty. So unless I do something like that where it's like, you get like a nice nib, if it's engraved or something like that, and get a custom ground to something. Number 10 size B is good. Yeah, they have so many different variations too, right? Like the size of nib and the type that you can get, which is really interesting for Pilot. Number 10 is in between Yovo 5 and 6. Yeah. Very cool. So, I think that's it. I think that's, unless you want me to test anything else on this paper or discuss anything, if you have any other questions, what are your thoughts? I like it. I think it's very, very cool. Keeping in mind, this is not like a mainstream kind of paper. It's not going to be the next, TRP or something like that, but it is kind of fun testing out different notebooks, especially if it's, there's a brand who, like Musubi, who offers different types of paper in their notebooks that you can kind of try out. And if you're going to, get one of their notebooks or try their different papers or something, it's kind of fun in that way. But yeah, it's not like, and also keeping in mind that it's not like one type of paper is an application for everything, right? Just because it sort of handles inks really well, so you can do paintings and like sketches and stuff like that if you're journaling in your notebook, it doesn't mean that you can do all of the things in that notebook and have it be a perfect experience, right? So Yeah, I probably wouldn't use this notebook to write in with my fountain pens like I would in a journal or something like that. But I think I would actually pick up this notebook if I was going to do a little bit of drawing with pencils, if I'm sketching something out. Um, if it's like a concept and I just want to get it out of my mind and onto paper, and for that I'm just going to use a pencil, then this might actually be a good use of good use for something like that. Or just having some fun painting in it, so that's kind of fun. It's a different it's obviously a different color paper, so if I'm painting in a TRP notebook or a different notebook that uses white paper, it's kind of a good contrast too, to try it on different types of paper, different colors of paper too. So that's kind of a cool contrast there. And exploring inks and colors that way, right? I'm just noticing some of the shimmer. It's very, very interesting. I just like watching the coloring you do with things. Oh, thanks, Spicy. It's different from traditional painting. Yeah, it's a little bit more chaotic. And less direction. It just ends up being what it's going to be. But yeah, I hope it's sort of interesting but also encouraging. If you want to try it, or if you just have a little bit of time to play around with your notebooks, try different papers, and test them out and have some fun, right? Take out your inks, have some fun. I like how you embrace shimmers too. I embrace shimmers more when I'm painting than if I'm going to ink up a pen. So I love shimmer inks. But I feel more comfortable painting with them or using them with dip pens than I do if I threw them into a fountain pen. And that's just, I've done it before, so it's not like I don't like putting shimmer inks in fountain pens. But I just feel like I get a lot more enjoyment out of painting with them and seeing them like so saturated that it's just so shimmery. It's like throwing glitter on paper, right? It just becomes so glittery and it's so fun and happy. I do like trying to incorporate at least one shimmer ink when I'm painting, just because of that effect of like, ooh, what's that? What's that shiny? I like shiny. And it's super easy to clean up too. It's like mess free. Ink will actually come out and spread a little. Yeah. Sometimes if you touch papers that have written, yes, I know. I've noticed that as well. And if you use shimmer inks in your fountain pens and you write in a journal, there can be some transfer of shimmer onto the opposite page for sure, because it's like glitter. It's just the rules of glitter and shimmer is that if you put it down on paper or anywhere, it will get everywhere. It's just how it is. Is it due to paper? It's a shimmer thing. It will just do it. Yeah. Yeah, it could be an ink thing too. Sometimes if you touch papers that you ever... Oh, you mean like not just shimmer inks, like standard inks too? Even normal inks. Oh, okay. If you touch papers that have been written in, ink will spread a little bit. Is it because the ink's not fully dry? Like, are you talking about if the paper is not absorbing the ink and it's just kind of sitting on there for a little bit? I think I tend to see that with shimmer inks, yes. But also inks that have high sheen. So if they're like really sheeny inks, because I think that property in itself makes it dry longer than like a standard ink. So that could be another reason. Okay. Yeah, maybe. It happens a lot with Akibi. Interesting. It could be. It could be the properties of the ink too. especially if you're using the same paper for all kinds of different inks, but you're finding it happening with a specific ink. It could be that ink. It could be, it could be that you're holding, are you putting your hand on an area and then you're writing over it? Because that could definitely be hand oils. And it's common. It's very common, and it does affect certain types of paper more than other types of paper. And for that, if you're not using blotter paper, I highly recommend blotter paper. I have blotter paper in all of my notebooks, especially my journals and planners, because not only is it great for like once you write on your page with a fountain pen, or if you're putting ink down and you put it on top and you close your book and you go, it's fine because the blotter paper will absorb any of the additional sort of ink that's still wet, and it won't transfer it to your opposite paper. But I also find if I'm sort of, especially like writing in an A5 or somewhere where there's like a lot of space, I tend to put my blotter paper down and then use it to sort of rest my hand on it. And then that way I can write on top or write, or draw or whatever in the space above. And then when I'm moving down, I kind of move that paper and then I keep writing and stuff. Hand oils don't always affect paper, and paper doesn't always absorb hand oils, but it can. And if you're finding that's the case, like if you do put your hand down and then you write on top of it and you find that there's spreading of the ink or it's not absorbing into the paper as much, that is probably why it could be your hand oils on the page. You should buy tons of blotter paper. I love blotter paper. I can't say that enough. It is so useful for just like what it is. It is super, super useful. And you could also use like postcards or like paper that's textured and absorbent. Those can work well. You can use like watercolor paper or something like that to rest your hand on. Things like that. So it feels weird to use. Yeah. I also use, I know this is very specific, so I don't say that as something that's easy to attain, but in some of my journals I have leather blotter paper, and these ones I got from Galen Leather when I bought their everyday notebooks, and they come sort of in packs, and there are other notebooks too. I think they include guide sheets, and let me just put this here. They include guide sheets and a sheet of leather blotter paper in the size of the notebook that you get, and that is like a comfortable way of having sort of blocking out an area of your paper while you're writing, but having something soft and smooth under your hand. You want one of those artist half gloves. Yes. You smudge pencil. Yeah, Mark. I know. It's great for calligraphers too, right? Like I see that often with people who sort of do calligraphy where they're moving ink around. And it's like, it's useful, right? It's useful. And it makes you probably look kind of cool, if I'm being honest. I'm so glad there's finally cuter blotter options. Geez, I know, right? Oh, I'm all for like, using blotter paper for the functionality of it. But like, give me something I want to look at. Because then you're kind of using it, and at least for me, I'm kind of using it as a bookmark as well, right? Like wherever I kind of put that blotter paper, it's because, it's like a bookmark for the book. And then it's like, if I'm using it while I'm writing, I want to look at something cute. For sure. I'm used to using them, but this is not a bad idea either. Yeah, yeah. Get more blotter paper, get cute blotter paper. And then, yeah, use alternatives if you can. Like if you can use something, I think I've actually seen people who sort of just cut like a thin glove or something. And then they'll cut sort of that space for their fingers and stuff. Hey, if you want to DIY it, totally go for it. Or if you have cloth or something like that lying around that you can sort of put under your hand, that might be a comfortable way of protecting your paper as well. But yeah, there are options, I think. Cardstock works in a pinch. Yeah, for sure. I think pretty much anything that's not going to scratch, like if you're using it to rest your hand or something like that, you don't want something to scratch up your paper or leave fibers behind because that could also not be the best if it's sort of like texture paper or something like that that leaves fibers and then you're writing on top of those. That's not fun. But anything smooth or meant to sort of absorb hand oils or inks or anything like that, I think should work. But yeah, so that's it. That was really fun. I enjoyed testing this paper. I have to think about it in terms of like my thoughts on, how I would use it personally, because a lot of times if you're like testing out paper or testing out notebooks, it's like, well, I don't necessarily want this notebook to just sit on my shelf, right? So I'll kind of think about like ways that I can use it in my everyday, or if I'm going to do art, is there an application for this type of paper in contrast with sort of like regular white paper? And yeah, I'll kind of think about that. But this was fun. I really enjoyed sort of comparing and contrasting the two very different paper. It's by no means similar to each other. And I think it's interesting that you can use these notebooks in different ways, for sure. Probably wouldn't use them in the same way as each other, but that's just me. So thank you so much for joining me. I hope you enjoy the rest of your Wednesday, whatever sort of time you're in, or the rest of your week. If you're going to Philly, have so much fun. Think of the rest of us who are going to have FOMO. But pick up some fun stuff and share your hauls if you do get stuff. And if you want to join me, I'm pretty sure that I'm going to be able to stream next Monday. And I'll be doing planning, journaling, general stationery stuff, drawing. It won't be too much fountain pen related, which, it is what it is. So if you're interested in that, join me. And we can do it together. And next Wednesday probably too. So next Monday, next Wednesday, you can find me on Instagram and socials as From Corolla. I'm Corolla. And yeah, we'll do some stationery fun together. So thanks for showing us more colors. Yeah, for sure. Of course. I'm always down to, trying different things, sharing different inks and different stationery supplies and stuff like that. So as long as you're having fun with your stationery, right? That's I think that's the point. As long as you're having fun, you're getting some joy out of playing with your stationery, and using what you have, in different ways. Explore them, be creative, and find ways that make you happy. So yeah, you're very welcome. Thanks for joining. Have a great rest of your week. I'll see you next week, friends, and I'll see you in other streams as well. Okay, bye. Go play with stationery. I appreciate you.